Welcome to episode 2 of Chewing the Crust with the Pie Eating Man. This week's guest is a chap that you may know as he's been a faithful and a traitor in series 2 of the BBC's Traitors. He's kindly agreed to share some of his life pivots and stories with us, and we hope that this will help people who might be struggling to see that there is always a way forward and fulfillment might just be around the corner if we just keep trying. So if anyone you know has a remarkable story of how that they've encountered life pivots or you've encountered life pivots and what you've learnt from them, please get in touch. And also, if you enjoyed today's episode, please remember to click like and subscribe. Apparently, I'm supposed to say that because, but I don't really know what I'm doing. So let's keep going forward anyway, and hopefully have a chat with Andrew. Hold on to your underpants here, Andrew. You're going to be blown away by this. From the valleys of Wales where the dragons stay true, comes Andrew Jenkins with stories for you. Through trysts and betrayals, through challenge and test, he's faced every moment giving his best. A faithful turned traitor, but rose above with courage, resilience, and a heart full of love. Now he joins me today with truth to reveal. So let's hear his story through struggles to steal.
I like that. I didn't know you did a bit of poetry on the side as well. But I'd never been introduced with a poem before, so I was pretty impressed.
Well, you can have it. I'll send it over to you. You can put it on your wall.
Cheers.
Firstly, thanks ever so much for joining us. I know that nobody knows who I am. I'm just a guy who has been through the mill through for my own mental health, and you and I are both actually a similar age. I'm 45. I think you're about similar age, and we've
Yeah.
probably our stories are weirdly similar for different reasons, which we can get into during this chat.
Yeah.
But I'm very grateful for you agreeing because I know that these things, you do a lot of these things.
No, thanks for the invite. Thanks for the invite. And when we had our conversation initially, I knew I wanted to do it straight away because you're a nice guy. That's the main thing. The world it needs full of people, more people like you, to be honest. Some people like me, I like to think. So no, it's really good. Thanks for inviting
Well,
me.
that's exactly what attracted me to you, and we both listen to the same radio show. I think there's a bit of a theme through my podcasts. I had to
Yeah.
get in touch when I heard you talking on it the other week, just because I remember watching you in the Traitors, and I remember you starting to talk about your mental health and things that were close to your heart, and I just thought, oh, I'd love to have a chat with him, and here we are. So there we go.
Yeah. Yeah. I know lots of people say that to me. Yeah, my current partner thought that as well. Yeah, she was watching me on the Traitors, and she said, "I'd like to have a chat with him one day."
Yeah,
Nearly a year later, we're together now.
nice.
Yeah,
Okay, so we've touched on it. Most people will know your face from Traitors. Um, been a massive hit. I think Series 2 was probably an even bigger hit than Series 1 for sure. And
yeah,
I've got
yeah.
all sorts of questions about Traitors that are separate
Okay,
from sort of the mental health pivot stuff, although they do overlap. But
okay.
yeah, I'm really interested in it, and I think when I that the point at which you sort of started to talk about your background on that, I thought was really brave.
Yeah, no, I did. I actually spoke about it a bit earlier on during the filming, but they didn't air it until later on, I suppose, because I got to the end, so they wanted to keep my story back, I suppose. Because I watch it exactly the same as all the viewers. I don't get to see it before you, so I'm waiting there every Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Because I can't remember what I did and what I said 3 months before, 4 months before. So I every week I'm watching it. I'm thinking that's the whole purpose of it on the show. The only reason I'm on that TV show is to get a profile on a platform I have now, to do what I do now. I don't care. I'm not being ungrateful, but I don't care about being recognised. I don't care about being taken to rugby matches. And if all that stopped tomorrow, it wouldn't bother me. As long as I can carry on helping inspire people. That's the reason we're on the show. So when I was watching on the telly, I was thinking to myself, oh, when's it coming on? When are they going to show my story? When are they going to show my story? 'Cause they didn't tell me when they're going to show my story. And then I thought when they did show it, I think I was a very good timing, to be honest. So it was
Mm.
good.
Since being involved with Traitors, I think it's since been involved, but it might have started before that. You are
Yeah.
now a mental health advocate, and that's your job.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I wanted to start doing it before the Traitors, but I wanted to start doing it after I met the man who saved my life. Really, I met him. I wanted to start helping support other people or inspire people. I didn't want them to suffer like I had for 24 years or 25 years. So I wanted to start talking about it then. And then the opportunity came around to go on the Traitors, and I thought to myself, that could boost my profile, obviously my platform, to reach more people, to be honest, and get to more people and make good connections, which is so basically had the effect that I wanted, to be honest. So obviously I got a great platform now and a great profile. So do what I do now, to be honest. Yeah, so I did want to start doing it before the TV show, but that just propelled me much further forward than it would have been if I hadn't gone on the TV show.
And if they want to get hold of you, it's www.andrewjenkins.co.
It is, yeah, or LinkedIn or Andrew Jenkins official on Instagram. I use LinkedIn quite a lot for work wise. So that's more professional platform. And just Andrew Jenkins on there. Yeah, there's lots of ways you can get hold of me. Yeah, more for my social media really. I've already started using it really for the last 12 months. But up until that point, I never really used social media.
Yeah, you're good at it. When I watch
No,
your videos, when you walk along talking, I think sometimes it's like when I wrote my book, all these people that I've written off to try and get the book published, they all say,
yeah,
well, what other books have you read? What else is there out there? And I purposely haven't because I want
yeah.
it to be me and out my words and not influenced by somebody else. And I feel that when you're walking along talking and you're saying you're doing something or you're having a thought for the day or whatever,
Yeah.
I feel like it's totally natural because I presume because you are not practiced at it. You haven't watched millions of other people doing it, you know.
So that's why people like me, I suppose, my authenticity, and that's what I talk about, being real and being true to yourself, I suppose. So, like people have sent me like scripts in there over the last couple of months. Oh, can you read that? And I can't read. I just can't do scripts. You could tell I'm reading the script, and it's not natural
Yeah.
at all to me. So I'd rather just be. I like off the cuff. Like I like Q&A's, for example, after the end of my talk. I like doing a Q&A because you don't know what anybody's going to ask. But I like that. It's fun and it's natural. It's real.
I've thought lots about while I've been sort of preparing to have a chat with you, and I've thought lots about it, and I've watched you be interviewed by other people and talk about things, and I know that you only very recently, probably the biggest pivot in your life that we'll come to, and I've thought, can I talk to you about your life and about what's gone on without going into that too much? And I I think we can, but I'd also I don't think we can talk about it without actually talking about it. So
I don't mind talking about it. I don't. 'Cause I'm lucky. I can't remember any of it, to be honest. The actual accident, so I don't get triggered by anything. I don't get upset. I've never been upset by it or triggered. Yeah. So I want people to see, like I just said at the start as well. I'm real and authentic, and I want people to watch this, to see the real, authentic. I want to help as many people as possible, and if I've overcome these certain things, they may be able to do it as well. So yeah, you
yeah.
can ask me anything you want. Honestly, don't hold back or don't worry about triggering anything, as it won't.
Okay, mate. Well, if you don't mind, then in that case, let's start with another question. What was your life like growing up? What were you like as a kid, and what was your family life like growing up?
It's a good question, I think, because I think it's important for people to watch and see my story, to know my background, because it plays a massive part in my struggles, I suppose. So, growing up, I had a great upbringing. My mother and father have been married 60 years this year. My dad worked in the iron ore colliery, and then he went to work in a factory. My mother worked in National Westminster Bank. Very old-fashioned family, traditional family. They give us good morals, good values. Be respectful to older people. Take your shoes off when you go into somebody's house. Don't leave the table before you finish all your dinner. I had to sit off with my mother once when I was about 12, I think, where we sat opposite each other for 3 hours, I think it was, because I wouldn't finish my dinner. But she won, and she ended up walking away every 20 minutes, the microwaving my food. She must have microwaved my food probably about 7 times. So God knows what that did to the food. But yeah, she won, so I had to finish all my food, and yeah, so like they're lovely people, but they're stuck in the 1930s. My parents have never driven a car, neither of them can drive. They've never been on an airplane. They don't have internet. They haven't got mobile phones. They watch the same soaps every night. The Emmerdale Farm, Coronation Street. They're creatures of habit. They don't like change at all. They hate change. And if they don't understand something, if they don't agree with something, they think, "Oh, it's stupid." Because they don't understand it. So it's their generation, to be honest. And sport in my house was massive growing up. And like many people in Wales, I wanted to play rugby for Wales. So from 5 years of age, my dream, like lots of people in Wales, was to play rugby for my country. I got three brothers as well, two older brothers and one younger brother. So the competitiveness in my house was just ridiculous, and the competition. So like I was scared growing up. I was so scared of failing. I thought failing and losing was a bad thing. So yeah. So growing up, I felt safe, But the way my mother and father showed their love to me or to us was a roof over my head, clothes on my back, and food on the table. But there was no emotional. I'm compassionate towards my parents now because they knew no better. They didn't know any different. My dad's never said he's loved me to this day. My mother's probably said it once, I think, in my life. So I know they do show it. I know they do. I know they do love me. But that's the generation. They didn't do things like that. They didn't show anything or hug anybody. So I grew up, in that environment that I grew up with, wearing a mask or wearing a front, I suppose, thinking I'm a real man. I can't show feelings and emotions. Men
Mm.
don't show feelings and emotions. I'm a strong rugby boy, gym goer, all these sort of things. And people laugh at this, but I say the four measures I had of what a man was growing up. I say to people now, where do young boys learn how to be a man? I said, watching older boys, role models, their brothers, people in the gym, the rugby club, the football club, wherever, in the pub. So the four metrics I had of what a man was growing up, right, was how many fights I'd won, how much I could bench press, how many pints I could drink, and how many girls you'd slept with. And that was the
Yeah.
four measures. When I was like 12, 13, 14, 15 years of age, I was watching older men in their 30s, 20s, late 20s, 30s, 40s, saying things, doing things, and I'm thinking, oh, is that what it's like? Is that what a man is it? So you copy them. I don't know any different. You don't learn in school. You don't learn it. So you just watch older people. So it's
Yeah.
crazy when you look back. That was the four measures, and it's nothing about emotions or feelings or talking about things. There was nothing about that back then. So yeah, so growing up, I had a good upbringing, just no emotions or anything really. I suppose growing up.
It's funny because I mean, again, I know we touched on it earlier, but we're both a similar age, and I think being brought up in Yorkshire and being brought up in Wales, there's probably a similarity to that.
Yeah,
That we're always looked at as being old-fashioned and
yeah,
perhaps down the mine and all that kind of thing. And I think you're right. And perhaps I don't know. I've never lived in Wales, so I don't know. But
yeah.
um, someone who eats vegan food, there's something wrong with them, and someone who doesn't drink, there's something wrong with them as well. And
It's
um,
funny, like, if you drink 20 pints, you're brilliant, you're amazing. Drink 5 pints, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
So, and that's
it's
what
crazy.
and that's the stupid challenge comments used to get banter. Years ago, we call it banter now. Obviously, it's not right nowadays, but yeah, but that's the comments I grew up with. Do you know what I mean? That's the things I grew
Yeah,
up with. Do you know what I mean?
it
But
must be very
banter,
difficult.
another thing, banter. I'm not. I think the world has gone a bit too PC these days. I think fun and laughter I think that's my happy place. I love banter, I love joking, I love larking around, and I think as people get older, we lose our playful side. And in this world these days, I think is you can't say this, you can't do that. You can't. At the end of the day, it's an opinion. I'm entitled to my opinion. The reason the world is a good place and a nice place, everybody's different, everybody's unique in their own way, and we've all got our own opinions. But I think sometimes the banter years ago, we should ask that person, do you mind if I say that? Or somebody say to somebody like, do you mind somebody's calling you that? Or do you mind saying that wasn't the case years ago? You
Yeah,
dare speak up. If you didn't like what somebody said to you, you dare say anything about it because you'd be cast out, or you think,
yeah,
oh,
yeah, yeah,
look, there's something wrong with you. But like nowadays, I think we've got to keep the banter or bring the banter back, but also bear in mind, would you like that if it was said to you? And check with that person if they're okay after somebody said something, just to make sure. There's some people I don't care. Somebody can say anything they want to me. It doesn't bother. Nothing triggers me or nothing upsets me. I got thick skin. But some people do get offended if you call them something or say something. They might not like it.
yeah. And I agree. And I was recently my wife. Somebody had a go at my wife when they were out walking the dog, and I went to find him basically to say not to have a fallout with him, but to say. Do you realize that you've now frightened my wife from walking the dog around where you were because of the way you behaved towards it? It
Yeah,
wasn't. It was. You could just say sorry, and the names that he called me. I actually was laughing out loud because they were so good, and I couldn't say them possibly on this podcast. But
yeah,
yeah, they were pretty. And I kept saying that's a good one, as you go along. But I always say to people, as long as I'm pulling your leg, it's because I care about you. It's when I
yeah,
stop that's when you want to worry. But you're right. I think it's good as long as there's no victim.
yeah, yeah.
You know your friends well enough that you can say certain things to them, and you can, like you say, if you'd upset them, you'd like to think they'd call you out. But I do think it's important to have that camaraderie, isn't it?
Oh, massive. If I'm on a bad day, I'd go to see my friends for banter, to be honest. So they stop giving me banter. Because I'd hate that, to be honest. So I like them winding me up, and I give it to
Yeah,
them. I'm probably the worst out of my friends, actually. But I like that. Do you know what I mean? That's why you go and see your mates for, is to have a chat and also a bit of laugh and a bit of banter. Do you know what I mean? And when you're struggling with your mental health, like I did for many, many years, that was one thing that kept me going, I suppose, having a laugh and messing about and just banter. Do you know what I mean? It takes you away from the reality, I suppose.
Well, I would imagine as well, like when you've been on TV, I can imagine. I mean, I've done a few bits of TV, but not quite like you
Yeah,
did. I would imagine they let you know that you are not special
yeah,
in any
yeah.
way, shape, or form.
Yeah, yeah, no, they were really good in all fairness to people there. Obviously, reality TV a couple of years back had a bad reputation. People were taking their own life after being on Love Island and everything. So now,
Yeah,
Studio Lambert, who produce the Traitors, they got their own welfare department, and they do look after you when you're in the castle. There's somebody there all the time, and you speak to a psychologist on a regular basis. Or if you want to speak to somebody, you can. And after the show, then they check in every couple of weeks, so they'll give you a call to see if you're okay. Yeah, so they do look after you. I think that they have to as a duty of care and part of their governance. They have to look after people now. Do you mean to
that's
make
really
sure?
impressive.
Yeah, no, it is good. I can only speak highly of them, to be honest with you. I never had any bad experiences and everything, so they were really good with me.
That's good. So we know you had a pleasant childhood, but it was what it was.
Yeah,
And then things changed.
yeah. So like I was involved in it. My life changed forever on the 28th of August, 1999. I was involved in a very serious road traffic accident. I was driving my car. There was five of us in the car. My partner at the time in the passenger seat, my friend and his partner in the back, and a girl I used to work with in the back. And I hit a curb. My passenger wheels hit a curb, and I flipped the car onto the right-hand side. And I went out to the driver's side window, the door. So my head and my arm were dragged along the floor for a couple of hundred yards. And then when the car stopped sliding, it landed on top of me. So my legs were in the footwell under the steering wheel, and my top half was out of the car. So when the emergency services turned up to the vehicle, they told the people in the car that I was dead. They asking questions and everything. They said, "Oh, it's too late now. He's dead." I said, I'm not a ghost. Don't worry, I didn't die. And yeah, they worked on me on the side of the road. I had a couple of blood transfusions and various things happened on the side of the road. I was unconscious this time, obviously. And then they took me to one hospital in Wales called in the Royal Gwent in Newport. But there was nothing they could do for me there. So I had a police escort then down to Morrison Hospital in Swansea, which is probably about 40 minutes away, because that was where neurology was at the time and plastic surgery. As you can imagine, my head being dragged along the floor wasn't a pretty sight. So I lost all the skin, all the hair off the top. I had nothing on top of my head. And I smashed my skull. I had a big hole in my skull as well, so I had lots of bone embedded in my brain. So while all that was going on as well, my mother and father were getting the dreaded knock on the door from the policeman to say, "You have to come with us now. Your son's been involved in a road traffic accident." And they thought it was a little bump in the car. So they thought, "We'll get changed. We'll come with you now." And they said, "You haven't got time to get changed. You have to come with us now." So they were put in the back of a police car and blue lighted from where they live to a little village in Toyo in Wales down to the hospital, which is probably about 20 minutes away. But as soon as they got to the hospital, I was on a trolley going back into the back of an ambulance to get transferred to the other hospital. They weren't allowed to see me. They said it was in a bad way. They obviously I wasn't in a good place really. They didn't want they weren't allowed to see me. My dad said, "Can I go in the back of the ambulance and travel with him?" And he said, "No, we got a doctor and a nurse in the back of the ambulance and all the machinery keeping your son alive." And they told my parents, they took him in the side room to talk to them in the hospital. And they said, "We don't think he's going to make the trip from Newport Hospital down to Swansea, which is probably about 40 minutes away." So I didn't think I was going to make that trip. So yeah, so I did obviously make the trip. They operated on me the night of the accident. Straight I got in the hospital, they operated on me straight away. And the first operation I had was obviously put skin on top of my head and put skin, hair on top of my head and skin, and also take all the bone up my brain. So I had a lot of bone embedded deep in my brain on the left hand side, and that they took all the bone up my brain. I was in a coma then for 4 weeks in a coma in intensive care. And my family were told on a few occasions I wouldn't make it through the night. And when I did start recovering, my family were told that from the scans they did on my head, they could see I probably had severe brain damage. There was lots of shadowing on my brain, which meant dead tissue. So they said, "Be prepared. If he wakes up, he's not going to recognize anyone, walk, talk, use his arms and legs ever again." So I woke out of my coma. I didn't know what had happened or where I was or anything. My mother had to explain it to me. But I remember my mother and father were standing over my bedside and they were obviously crying. And yeah, the first thing I said to my parents, my mother, I can't remember this. I was on so much morphine, and so I was out of it. My mother said I argued with my parents because I thought my younger brother and my partner's dad at the time was with me in the car. Because I said, "How's Carl and how's Bug?" That was her partner. That was her dad's nickname, Bug. His name was James. And my mother said, "What do you mean they weren't there?" And my mother said, "You were adamant. You were arguing with me. They were in the car with me." My brother at the time was 14. He was in the house. It was a Saturday night. He was in the
Wow.
house. and her dad was in London. He worked for a big company called Lang O'Rourke's who do big tower cranes and things. So he was working for
Yeah.
them. And I was adamant, and my mother said they weren't. I said, I was walking up this very, very dark, narrow corridor. There was a big, really bright light at the end of this corridor. I was going to walk into this light, and all of a sudden, I heard some names, I heard people behind me calling my name, saying, Andrew, don't go, Andrew. So I turned around, I looked up the corridor. It was my younger brother and her dad. I don't know why them, I don't know. But I looked back and forth. I looked at the light, I looked at them, I looked back and forth for a minute. And I turned round up that corridor. I walked back towards my brother and her dad. And I woke up then. So the next day or two, I woke up then. So yeah, yeah, it was all my injuries were awful, as you can imagine. The physical injuries were horrendous, but my biggest challenge lay ahead. Unbeknown to me, my mental health. I struggled with my mental health then for 24 years.
I mean, just wow. Uh, I, it just takes your breath away. Um, and as a parent, as I know you are,
Yeah,
and as a young, having been a young tearaway, it sounds like you perhaps were,
yeah.
um, I think it could have happened to any of us. And I'm not, I don't really believe in luck. I think, but you've certainly had good fortune there, haven't you? And I,
Yeah.
Ah, what's the first? Because I was thinking about this as well, and I don't think the pivot in this situation is actually the crash. The pivot is the point at which you wake up, and your your horizons and your view on the world just has to change there and then, doesn't it? What the situation is that day compared to 4 weeks previous is totally different now, isn't it?
It did change, but to be honest, it didn't change. It didn't change for many, 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 many years. God, 20 odd years after, I think, because I don't know, because I was, like I said at the start, I was brought up where I can't show any feelings and emotions. So after my accident, they offered me counselling or therapy, but I assumed I was going to see somebody in a white coat who would judge me, psychoanalyze me, get inside my head, who's not relatable, some posh person. I I was a 21-year-old, ignorant, macho, testosterone-filled kid. Invincible. I was invincible. I was quite a tough person, strong. And that's what probably saved me. I was very fit and strong mentally and physically. So I
Mm.
refused counselling. I never went for counselling. So, they patch you up in hospital, physically, and they send you home then. They don't prepare you for what's to come. I don't know. And this is 25 years ago. So probably, I don't know, it probably might be better now. I don't know. But they didn't prepare you psychologically or tell me, what. They don't know, I suppose. So, yes, I went home then. And after a couple of months recovery, I went back to work then. So I went back to work in Lloyd's Bank.
2 months.
I think I was in hospital for 4 months. I went back to work. Yeah, just yeah, it was a couple of months after. It was about probably 6 months after my accident, or 4 months after my, no, 6 months after my accident. I went back to work. Yeah,
And you learnt to walk again in hospital.
it's about 2 weeks. Yeah, so when they got me out of bed for the first time, I was standing like they got them parallel bars, and I physically I could not remember to find my legs. I couldn't walk. I could not remember how to do it. So I thought, oh sugar. I thought, oh, great. And then, no disrespect, I couldn't be really fit and sporty from 5 years of age to being in a wheelchair at 21. I know you'd adapt and everything, but at that time, nah, I'm a fighter. And when somebody tells me I can't do something, I'll do it and I'll do it 10 times better. So when the woman stood me up, the physiotherapist, I couldn't, she had to physically pick my feet up and put one in front of the other. And after a while, I remembered how to walk. And then if I learned to walk. It probably took me about 2 weeks to learn to walk again, properly on my
Wow.
own. But it was scary. It's a scary thing. Being in hospital in general is scary. You hear all these beeping, and it's a frightening place. You don't know if you're going to recover. There's people dying around doing intensive care. Like I saw people dying whose injuries weren't that bad. They just give up on life, I think. And I know, I don't really believe in luck that much either, but I think I believe in fate, and I believe in, I don't know, I believe in fate, and I think a lot of it's in your head and your heart. If you want something bad enough in life, go out there, put a plan in place, work hard, and bloody go after it, and you can get it. And I was
I
determined I'd
agree.
walk again. It wasn't my time when maybe there's a God. I don't know. I'm not going into religion. That's another podcast altogether. That's a total different subject. But I'm spiritual, I think. But I don't know if I'm religious. I don't know if I'm religious. I like looking at the science and the facts behind things. And if you look at it scientifically, but I don't know. There may be a God who saved me at that time. It wasn't my time to go at that time. So for many, many years, I asked myself over and over again for years. I'd be in my head all the time asking questions. Why am I still here? Why am I here? What's my purpose in life? Why did he keep me alive? And I asked myself questions over and over again for many, many years. So it'd been really the last couple of years. I really appreciated what happened. I want to start doing good. My life, excuse the pun, was pretty much a car crash for 20 odd years, I suppose. I hated
Mm.
myself. Hated what I saw in the mirror. I couldn't accept my scarring. I wish I was called myself a freak every single day. I was ugly. Nobody ever wanted to be with me. I'd be on my own for the rest of my life. Yeah, it breaks my mother's heart now. Listen to her son call himself a freak every day is not nice, do you know what I mean? And I tell people now it's true. How can anybody love you unless you love yourself? I didn't know what that meant before, but I get it now. I do understand it. And like positive self-talk and negative self-talk are destructive. I used to say horrible things to myself every single day, and after a while you start to believe it. But saying that for 20 years, because I look in the mirror to get ready for work every morning and gel my hair, and I focus on my scars or my hair every time, straight away. And that's the first thing I look at. When people say to me, I couldn't accept compliments to everyone. When somebody said, "Oh, you got nice eyes, nice teeth," I'd always follow up the negative, or I'd say horrible things to myself. So a couple of years ago, I just stopped saying horrible things to myself, and it sounds easy. I just stopped negative self-talk. I wouldn't say anything at all, and
Mm.
it helped my self-esteem.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, I have to say, when I went through, I mean, I had, I think I was depressed as a child, but I
Yeah,
don't think I knew what it was. And then I was bullied in the workplace at about the same age as you had your accident
yeah,
by my boss, and I had a breakdown. And it was horrible, and you know, it is what it is. Little kid and well, two kids and family and a mortgage, and you've got to get, like you say, you've got to still get up and pay the bills and all those kind of things. But um, I think I believed them when they told me that I was no good and that you know, I was not very good at my job, and it wasn't until I left and didn't have any money and went to another job where people started to tell me I was worthwhile and um, my input was valued and I was intelligent and also I perhaps when I was about 30 I forgave myself. I forgave myself not necessarily because I did anything wrong, but I forgave not overcoming it. No, a bit like you know, punishing yourself and actually start stopping saying bad things to yourself. It was a
yeah.
similar thing to me. I stopped being, I forgave myself for feeling the way I had because that allowed me to draw a line in the sand and move forward. And it sounds like you did something similar. And yeah, it's not easy. And I do think it's a very personal journey into, I mean, I can't possibly comprehend what it must be like to forget how to walk.
Yeah, yeah, I know it was horrendous, and yeah, but it was frustrating. Like I just struggled big time with mental health, and I get frustrated with myself. I talk about this now. You climb these ladders in life and that because you're told from a young age that's what you have to do. Corporate jobs, more money equals more happiness, and then you get to the top of the ladder and you think, oh, that's it. It's not. I've climbed somebody else's ladder, not my ladder. I've kept make my parents proud, make them happy. Fit. Because I say when I do my talk, I say you're the truest version of yourself as a child. You're the most authentic, truest version of yourself when you're born. And then you get programmed then with other people's beliefs, which are outdated or sometimes even incorrect, but you know they're any different. So you just go along with it. So they get programmed. So eventually then you wake, you go to you get programmed first of all, your parents do it. And rightfully so in some instances, basic manners and everything, but they push their beliefs onto you. And then go to do this job like your mother, do that like your dad, work hard, get a good job. And then you go to school, you get conditioned some more, programmed some more. Do this, sit there, don't do this. And then you go to university. University, you have to go to university. That's where all the successful children go to university. And then to get in with the cool kids in school, you start messing around, larking around in class. Like I used to mess around all the time. Went to school just to mess around, really, to be popular. And then you start drinking, maybe smoking when you're 15, 16 to fit in with the cool kids. And then you go off to university then, or you either get a job, then you find a job with the biggest salary possible, with the fanciest job title. And you do it for yourself or you do it to keep your parents happy. And then you wake up one day then, you're with somebody in a house you don't want to be with. You're in, yeah, you're dragging yourself to a job every day. But you think, oh, I'm 40 years of age, I'm 30 years of age. My parents like this person. I got children with them. I got a big mortgage with them, so I have to stay there. So you feel trapped then. And some
Yeah.
people look in the mirror, and some people call it a midlife crisis. I think it's not a midlife crisis. I think you realize who the true version of yourself is. So you're down here, it's an awakening, I call it. So you're down here, and you've got like 10, 20, 30 levels above social acceptance, people's expectations, hurt, upset, failures, all these coats of armor you put on. You put these coats of armor on, coats of armor on. And then one day, because I had all that. I had everything that I thought I was to be successful and be happy in life, but I weren't happy. Every couple of months or weeks, I look at myself. I think if I was a man looking at my life now, I'd want what I got. I want his body. I want his house. I want his job. I want his car. I want his everything. But I still weren't happy because I hadn't found my purpose. I was living a life for everybody else. I was living a life to be fit. What I thought, what you're told from a young age, is what makes you happy, but it wasn't. So I'm now, I'm now doing what I want to do now. I'm living my life the way I want to live it. And it's hard being vulnerable. It all links back to vulnerability. And it's scary being vulnerable. I've been vulnerable now to millions around the country. And it's you feel scared, you feel naked, you feel out of control, you feel lonely, you feel isolated. It's horrible. I can see why people don't hold that mirror up in front of. I held the mirror up in front of myself. I didn't like the version of who I was. I held the mirror up in front of me. And you look at the deepest, darkest, your faults, your triggers, and I work on it before. People go through the whole of life sometimes not wanting to work on themselves. But I looked at myself and why am I I now ask myself questions. What triggers? Why did I get triggered? Why do I think that? Whereas before, I'd walk around, I wasn't very self-aware. I didn't care what I said, I didn't care what I did, I didn't care who I upset. I didn't care. To me, I think a lot of people go through the whole life and they don't say that. That's just the way he is. No, it's not the way he is or the way she is. If they want to change, they can change. You can
Yeah,
change. With neuroplasticity, you can change your mind. You can change the way you think. You
yeah,
can if you want. It's not easy because I've had 40 odd years of programming. So to unprogram my mind now after 40 odd years is difficult. But I
yeah.
feel more content now. And I feel happier now than I probably ever have in my life.
Yeah, and I think you listed all the things that by being vulnerable that sound like negatives, but at the end of it you can see you're free as well, and that
Yeah.
freedom is massive, isn't it? It's so important.
Well, when you're vulnerable, you start being vulnerable. People who you're with in your relationships, you're with your children, your family, your partner, they're getting the true version of yourself and the true authentic version of yourself. Do you know what I mean? So being vulnerable is courageous and brave. It's not a weakness. In this country, we
I
think it's a
agree.
weakness. And I grew up all my life thinking, showing emotions, basically being vulnerable was a weakness. I was a man. I couldn't show my feelings on a rugby pitch. The opposition would beat me in a fight. I couldn't show I was weak or upset. I'd lose my fight or I'd lose. I was obviously on the front foot all the time. My front foot was obviously attack before get it. So I was always a strong one. But like, yeah, it's not right. I mean, and I want to be, draw a line in the sand and break that. Try and be a good role model now for people, younger men, I suppose, to what live their life like. I suppose.
Do you think in as part of that your son's a big driver in that? I mean, I know that's probably the next pivot in your life. Then your son is I believe he was born a couple of years after your accident.
Yeah, I was still recovering, to be honest. 2 years after my accident, my son was born. I was 23 at the time, and it was a very stressful time, very, very stressful time. It wasn't like it wasn't a happy time. It was very stressful because I was still really recovering from my accident. It took me out. I still am now, to be honest, but like back then, even more. So bringing him into my world, he saved my life, though, to be honest, I think, and not physically. And he only knew this a couple of years ago when we spoke recently. I suffered depression big time. I never got diagnosed with it, but I know what it was now after doing a lot of reading. I'd lie in bed, looking up at the ceiling, crying, wish I was dead. I was a hindrance to my family. I was a freak. I didn't want to be here anymore. I never tried to take my own life or make a plan, but it was some dark, dark days I had. And my son and my parents, nobody ever saw this. I get up every day, put my mask on, go off to work with my smile on my face. Behind closed doors, I hated it. So my son being born, he gave me a purpose in life again. I had to get up, drag myself out of bed every day or whatever, take him off to his rugby matches, his football. I want to be a good role model and a good father to my son, like my dad was to me. So he saved my life, in a way, I suppose. If he hadn't been born, I don't know what I would have done. Spiraled. I don't know what I would have done. Honestly, I don't want to think about it, to be honest. But yeah, he's a great kid, and I'm really proud of him.
I think my son's a similar age as well, born in 2003. So I
Yeah,
think he was very pivotal in. I think that the difference between having to
proud
get
of him.
up and get on, you know, I think is a massive drive. If you're struggling and you have to get up and you have to get on, I think that's how you get somewhere in the end. But if you don't have to get up and you don't have to get on, then that purpose is gone, isn't it? You could choose to, as you say, I've had some terrible thoughts and and it's having a child or having someone that is so vulnerable that
Yeah,
relies upon you is
yeah.
just so important.
I having a purpose in life in general. I think in a career, having a good purpose, and if you find a strong why and a strong purpose, that drives you on. I think, and people say to me, I talk to people. I like the gym, for example, right? So people say, I can't get motivated. I can't get motivated. I said, stop talking about motivation. You don't want motivation. I said, motivation is fleeting. It comes and goes. I said, even the most successful people in the world, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Michael Jordan, they're not motivated 100% of the time. What they have got is discipline. They've got a good
Mm,
why, a good purpose, and discipline. So they get out of
mm,
bed every day and do the things they have to do, even when they don't want to do them. And I did
mm,
that back last year. I did a transformation, for example, for the gym. I wanted to have a photo shoot and everything. I wanted to be about the best I could. I had to go to the gym every morning at 6 o'clock. I had to go back and do weights in the night. I wasn't motivated, especially in the winter time. It's dark, it's cold, it's raining. I could have easily rolled over another hour, but I wouldn't have got me where I wanted to go. So that's the same in the workplace, in school, in life in general. It's about finding your why, what you want in life. Sitting down and think, right, what do I want in life? What do I want in life? What do I value? And then putting a plan in place, and then writing things down to get the next level and get there, and doing them things relentlessly all the time.
You seem to be something of a challenge seeker. Yeah, do you think that's since you, I want to say, woke up, since you decided that you're not going to beat yourself up anymore? Because I mean that walk, so yeah, I don't know if you want to introduce it, but you did the walk for charity as well, didn't you?
I think me and my partner spoke of this recently. Me and my current partner now, she's amazing. We challenge each other a lot, and we thought about this. I don't know if I'm a challenge seeker or a dopamine seeker. I we haven't. I don't go into too much details. I'm not an expert on it. I haven't done much reading on it. But when we've spoken about it in the past, I think it does make sense. Like, I think maybe I got low levels of dopamine. I suppose I'm always chasing dopamine, whether that's in the gym, whether that is excitement and fun and all that. Do you mean so? Well, it's high. Every human loves a dopamine hit, and that's what I say to
Mm.
people when they looking to lose weight. I always go back to losing weight and training because that's my thing, right? But people say to me, I want to lose 2 stone. I said, no, you don't want to lose 2 stone. You want to lose £2 or £3 continuously over a long period of time. I said, it's great to have a big target and a big goal, but if you're only gonna celebrate when you get your 2 stone, that's gonna be like 6 months, not whatever, depending on how hard you train and that. That's gonna take like 7, 8, 9 months, for example. So I said, but if you celebrate your small wins, consistently, you're always getting a dopamine hit. Your body's always getting a dopamine hit. And humans love a dopamine hit. We are dopamine, we love it. It's a feel-good chemical. So if you're gonna celebrate when you lose 2 or 3 pounds, whatever it's gonna be, I'm not saying go out on a huge meal, but like to celebrate with something, you're always getting rewarded. You're always feeling good about
Mm.
yourself then. It's like children, isn't it? You reward children, and if they do something good and they get rewarded, they'll do it again and they'll do it again. And that's what you're doing. Like human being, adults are the same.
I think that's my worry. I'm probably going sideways again when you were saying about religion. We're going a bit sideways here, but I think that's my worry about weight loss injections because there is no dopamine hit and there's no reward to you actually doing it. So you basically, you're not there's no challenge, there's no reward, is there?
Me and
And
my
it's
partner were
almost
talking about this again. Like, we talk about this quite regularly because we know people, I know people, and she knows people who are having it done. I'm thinking, it's crazy. We got to learn and change habits and behaviors and educate people. Educate people on calories in, calories. It's not rocket science. You eat
no.
more than the calories you need, you're going to put weight on. Yeah,
Yeah,
people just want to do the hard work. Everybody these days wants quick hits, quick wins, quick wins. But that's not changing habits and behaviors. When then people stop these injections, who knows what the long-term effects is on that body? Who
yeah,
knows? Nobody, there haven't been studies done to say, I think the injections are good for people who are morbidly obese who are going to die, who are ready to have a heart attack or diabetes, who are going to die. It's for them people. It's not for people who are a bit fat or a bit plump who just want an easy way out to lose a bit of weight for a holiday or a beach or whatever. So I think people. I know it frustrates me to be honest with you because when they stop taking them injections, they start eating food again and they're going to pile the weight
yeah.
back on, and that's going to be worse
You
on their heart and their
It's got to be a
organs.
lifestyle change
Yeah,
accompanying it, hasn't there? And
yeah,
I
massive.
think and if you're going to be prescribed them, you should still have to attend whether it's weight loss classes or go to so that you're actually getting trained into ready to when they stop, you've got
Yeah.
something to replace it.
What example are you setting to their children as well? If these people taking these injections got children, and again, I'm just generalizing now, right? So more obesity in the country is absolutely ridiculous at the moment. Then the obesity in young children, I can't remember the statistics at the moment now, but it's ridiculous. You've had children as young as 10 having hip replacements because they're obese. 10
Yeah,
years old and a hip replacement. That's disgusting. It's like a form of child abuse, I think, personally. So, but more often than not, if you see the children are overweight, normally one or two of the parents or both of them are overweight as well. I'm not knocking the parents. If they don't understand nutrition and diet, how are they supposed to educate their children? So I
yeah,
think we got to educate the next generation of children, that sort of thing. And if it's my mummy's just taking an injection and loses weight, so the child will think I can eat what I want, and when I get fat and I'll get obese, I can just have an injection off the
yeah.
NHS. It's just the total wrong behaviour and the total wrong sign we're giving our children.
I mean, like I say, I think they have a place, but I think it must be accompanied with education
Yeah,
and a regime and those
yeah,
installing those tiny habits that can. It's a bit like mental health, isn't it? You've
yeah.
got to start. You've got to train yourself to be able to cope with the situations that you face, and you're reckless if you don't.
I say that to my partner. I say lots of people as well, giving people tools, equipping people with the tools, mental health, diet, finances. I said, do you know what I mean debt is costing the country billions of pounds, obesity is costing the country billions of pounds, and suicides are going up. So something's breaking. Yet we're the most educated population the world has ever had. We got so much information at our fingertips, but the metrics are going the wrong way. So something's breaking down somewhere. So why are we educating the younger generation or educating people about when they leave school, why are we teaching kids about APRs percentages in school, for example? So when they leave school, they know if they borrow money, it's going to cost them X amount, or they know this. Or why are we teaching kids about to regulate their own moods and their own triggers and that sort of thing? I'm not saying teach kids how to be counselors or psychologists, but give them a basic understanding of their moods so they know if they're having a bad day, they can go for a walk or they can do something to get them out of it. But now the parents are labeling children. It's dangerous at the moment. I think parents are labeling their kids with these things. Oh, my son got ADHD. My child got depression. I spoke to somebody a couple of weeks back. Oh, my daughter's got depression. I said, all right, okay, how old is she? 7. 7? I said, has she been diagnosed, medically diagnosed? Oh, no. I said, no, she's having a bad day. I get bad days exactly the same as everybody else. I'm not a robot because I talk about mental health and well-being. I get my triggers, I get my down days exactly the same as everybody. But and years ago I'd spiral and I'd be down for weeks or weeks and weeks maybe.
Yeah,
But now I can catch myself. I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. I triggered the other day about something. Do you know what I mean? But I'm not perfect, and I want to be that person out there on social media to say, look, I'm not perfect, and nobody's perfect. So don't be hard on yourselves and beat yourselves up. But I'm trying. I'm trying my best. And that's all you can
mm.
ask for in life and anything is try your best and give your best. And that's all you can ask for.
And be kind to yourself. you
Yeah,
know, give
yeah.
yourself a break because it's okay to have a down day, like you say. Sometimes actually a day on the sofa watching a movie, it's not the end of the world, but just don't let it become a habit. Don't let it become, part of the only thing you do.
Yeah, it's funny. I heard an analogy of I follow a guy on fitness on health. James Smith. His name is, and he said an analogy. If you're having a bad day or you didn't eat very well for your training or diet, it's like when you have a puncture in your car. You don't get out of the car and stab the other three tires, do you? You don't sabotage them all. You just fix that one. I say when you have a bad day, people say, "Oh, forget about it." I say, don't forget about it. Learn from it.
Yeah,
Why did you have a bad day? At the end of the day, why did you have a bad day? Could I have done something differently? What could I do better next time so you don't have a bad day again then? Otherwise, if you don't learn from it, you're going to keep having them bad days. So I say learn from it, but don't, start the next day. Go to bed, watch a film, just forget about that day then if you can, learn from it. And then next day, get up and do the disciplined things you have to do every day again, then right to
yeah.
the next following day off.
That's why I think forgiveness has such a value because you've got to forgive yourself for you can't undo it. So
It's
if on
done.
day two you start beating yourself up about day one, you'll
Yeah.
it becomes ever decreasing. So if you just say, okay, it was a bad idea, or it suited me for the day, but moving forward, it's going to be a nightmare. But anyway,
It's being compassionate. I didn't really understand what the word compassion meant until I still don't really know. I'm gonna be honest. I think it's being more compassionate towards yourself. I didn't know any different growing up, for example. So growing up, rather than being harder on myself and beating myself up, just say to myself, I didn't know any different. I didn't know any different back then. Do you know what I mean? So
mm,
there's a massive thing about toxic masculinity at the moment. And like I mentioned at the start, I didn't know any different back then. So men, saying jokes about their girlfriends, their wives, and joking and banter and that sort of thing. But I didn't. I don't learn that in school, did I? So how did I know any different? It's only when I've now started reading and learning about myself now. I learned about. So I'm more compassionate with myself now.
did you have any lasting effects of your on your brain? Because of the damage to your brain. Do you? Because the reason I ask is I did some work with some people who suffered with brain illnesses like meningitis as children, and it caused damage to their brain. And I was really interested in that. And the brain is so incredible. I mean, you're a clear example that your brain was damaged physically. I
Yeah,
hope you're going to explain,
yeah.
but you've clearly managed very well.
Yeah, I think I've never had any tests done on me because I say I've never. I'm because the last couple of years I've really been curious about finding out about me. Really, I've been on a huge self-discovery journey the last 18 months, 2 years, I suppose, of finding out who the real Andrew Jenkins, I suppose. And I would like to have some, don't be tests or whatever, because it might answer some questions. Like sometimes I think that sometimes am either like really up there or really down there. Like so, I don't know if I damage the emotion side of my brain or I don't know whether I damaged that part of my brain. The left side of my brain was badly damaged. So I would, I maybe I think I got a bit of ADHD now. I know everybody jumps on that bandwagon as well, but I think I generally have. I think I might have a bit of ADHD, like in loud noises in places I don't like that anymore. I talk fast, as you can probably tell. I like talking. I
Yeah.
talk fast, and I never talk fast for my accident. So whether again, I'm trying to. Every time something happens, I always try to understand myself better now and try and think. So I think I probably have had some form of long-lasting damage. I don't know what that is, mine, but I just try and look at my personality. I was different now to before the accident. I try and think about it then.
Yeah. I mean, I would imagine the experience of the accident would have changed you as well. So it's hard to know whether it's the learned effects of the accident and what you learn as a result, or whether or not you actually were altered by your brain. One of the things I did learn, the children that I was working with, they had memory problems. So they would get up in the morning, they would have to have written down for them to clean your teeth, do this, do that, the other. And when you go to the shop, they would have to. This is the shop you're going to. This is what you need to buy. They couldn't remember what if you just told them there and then. But what they found was that um, the senses, so touch, feel, smell, taste. Is that all of them? Touch, feel, smell, taste.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
can't
yeah.
remember the sight.
Tight, yeah.
I couldn't see the other one. But yeah, they said that the parts of the brain that deal with those elements of what you do physically grew to compensate for the memory loss. And by what happened, what they meant was smells would make you remember things better because of the damage to your memory. The brain tried to encourage a different part of the brain to work harder and better. How incredible is that?
It is amazing. So somebody loses their sight or a blind person, they reckon their other senses are better than they, or somebody is deaf, the other sense. And God knows what's happening with me. Like my eyesight's getting terrible. My hearing's not great. I get my smell. My smell is okay, I think. But yeah, no, no,
That's not
yeah,
what your partner was saying, actually. She said you stink.
yeah, yeah. No, yeah, it's probably true actually. But you've like just reminded me. Just reminded my memory. I spoke to her like I've seen a therapist or a counselor a while ago. We spoke about this talking fasting because she said she can refer me to a speech therapist. I don't think it's that bad, but I think it may be because my memory's not as good. I can't remember much of my childhood. I can't remember anything, not anything. I can't remember anything of my childhood, good or bad. Or it wasn't. I know it wasn't bad. It was a good childhood, but I can't remember any memories or anything. So I don't know if my memory is not as good as it was. So when I talk fast, because I think to myself, oh, there's a good idea in my head. If I don't get it out, I'll forget it. So that's why I try to get everything out of my head as quickly as I can when I'm talking, so I don't forget things. Does that make sense? So I think that's what
ADHD,
that could
mate.
be.
That is a classic ADHD. I'm
Oh,
and
thanks.
I'm terrible for interrupting people, and
I
it's
tried getting
something
better.
I've had to learn. In the last 5 years, I've worked and worked and worked, and doing this is really good training because you've got to ask a question and let somebody answer the question. Because the worst thing is to jump in because you think you know what they're going to say and you miss something. Something important. But yeah, classic
I have
ADHD, mate.
ADHD.
I'm afraid.
Thanks. You diagnosed me now. Thank you. No, yes. No, I knew that, but a couple of people have said ADHD. Because yeah, when people are speaking, I'm thinking to myself, hurry up, but so I do listen to them, but not as intently as I should be listening. Not active listening. And I've learned active listening in sales jobs now. So yeah, I'm thinking of my response before they even finish their question, before
I'm
they
the
even finish
same.
answering, or I'm thinking, hurry up, hurry up, because I'm thinking I'll forget what I want to say. So
I'm the same.
my memory, I don't know, ADHD, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know. I'd be shocked if I was a horse, they'd put me down, perhaps.
I actually think it's a sign of being a genius when you think like that.
Yes, I'll use that one. Tell my partner I'm a genius. Mark told me I'm a genius this morning. All the
I
mad people, all these geniuses have got some traits of ADHD or neurodiverse, aren't they? Most of them.
Yeah, it's definitely. I know Paris Hilton changed my view on ADHD because I was always called hyperactive as a kid, and I couldn't have like Kiora or I couldn't have certain sweets, otherwise I'd just
Eora,
be
remember that?
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
there's a drink on it. Kill that little,
yeah,
the penguin
with
thing,
all
not
the
penguin.
with all the crows going along.
Crows,
But
yeah.
yeah, um, I couldn't have Kiora. I couldn't have anything that was colourful. All I was allowed was St. Clement's orange juice because it had no colours in it and fruit. I couldn't have any sweets or anything because I'd just be bazzoing off the walls. I could wreck a family party like that through sort of these colours and things. Um,
Yeah.
but what I realised, I've forgotten what I realised about that.
ADHD.
Yeah, it's gone.
We're like a good pair, aren't we?
What's your name again?
Yeah.
So anyway, I want to go on to Traitors if that's okay, as a
Yeah.
fanboy. Can I do that?
Depends what you ask me. There's only certain things I can answer mine, so yeah, I'll try and
Well,
answer my best.
that's the first question.
All right.
Are you bound by certain things not to be able to answer questions?
Yes, I signed an NDA, and they're quite serious about that. To be honest, they enforce it if you I do understand it. I thought it was bit heavy. I thought, but it does ruin it for the viewers. The viewers who are watching it who've never been in the castle, never been there, because people do love the show. It's a massive. I think the BBC realised how big it was going to be, to be honest, and I think people love watching the show. So if people started coming out and telling everybody what's behind the scenes and what's happening, it wouldn't be as good to watch it. It wouldn't be as good to watch if I knew certain things. So I do understand
Okay,
why.
right then. Okay, well, first question you'll definitely be able to tell me. How good's the food?
I don't know if you're saying that because you saw me eating all the time on camera, or you generally want to know.
Those breakfasts
Everybody
just
says
look
to me,
so good.
everybody says to me, all you were doing on camera is eating. I think, oh, that's just the way the cameraman did it. I think I probably was. The food it's nice. The food you have your breakfast in the morning is it's a cold buffet. I ate probably 2 tons of brie. I think 2 tons of cheese when I was there. I was only playing, I think, to put weight on in the castle. So yeah, yeah, the food is all right. It's a continental breakfast every morning, and then they do different things. You have a lunch and you have a dinner in the night then, and it's lovely. The catering staff are brilliant.
And I actually know where you stay, but you clearly don't stay in the castle. Um,
Don't we? I'm not sure.
yeah, right, okay. Well, you get taken off in a van every night and
You
morning.
know,
It's
you
not hard
said
to find.
you know where we stay.
Yeah, I do.
That's one of the things they can't answer.
The bit I don't understand, or I
Right.
can't work out, and you might not be able to answer, so I'll just ask and ask until you give awkward smiles. Um, is the tower part of the castle?
Yes.
Okay. Is
It's going to
the
give a guess too. Go on, yeah, that's the part of the
is
castle. It is
is the the room where you do the accusing the big table, the
the
round
round table.
table?
Yeah.
Is that room part of the castle? Okay.
Everything's all the filming's in the castle. Everything you see is in the castle, apart from the
Okay.
missions, which is obviously you go off to a lock or wherever you're going. But everything you see on telly is in the castle.
The bit that I don't
I know
quite
exactly
can't
what you're gonna ask me.
you do. Okay, the
I
bit
know,
I
I know.
can't quite work out is how they separate you in order that nobody knows who's who. How do you leak? Because I know that yeah, you don't have to because you're NDA. I know where you stay in the hotel. I know where the hotel is. So, I, you all must leave the hotel, and you must leave individually, but you must leave without each other seeing each other leave. How do they do that?
You just said it. You just said it.
Yeah,
You just so, basically
but
you leave when you leave. When you
you get
go
a
to your account
time to leave.
when you go to your room, you basically they leave. You leave after about 5-10 minutes. They give a gap in between each one, and you
Right.
go to your room, and then you don't see that person until the next morning.
And do you
So
have to keep your curtains shut in the hotel, in the where you're staying? Because presumably everybody in the morning has to get picked up. Do you get a time slot to be picked up then?
in the morning, we all go in the morning. It's groups of people. It doesn't matter in the morning, does it? I suppose. But when you leave, when you go to your home, when you go to your room in the night, you basically they change the order of the people how you leave. So sometimes you go first, other time you
Ah,
go
okay.
third, other time you go 10th. So they change the order every night. They don't keep the order the same when you leave. When you go to your room, they change the order basically.
That
So
makes sense. That
I
makes
leave
sense.
first, and then Harry will leave second. Maybe another night, Harry might leave first. I might leave ninth, and then you say good night to that person. Then you go off to their room, and then you don't see them until the next morning.
Okay. And then I think the one that you're probably not going to be able to answer is you presumably all have to go for. an interview each every day.
You have lots of interviews. You have
Yeah,
lots of like
because otherwise
interviews.
it gives it away who's talking about what and who they're focusing in on, don't they?
You have lots of interviews in the libraries. They have lots of library rooms and everything in the castle. It's a lovely castle, stunning castle, and there's lots of different rooms they have in there. And you go in there and you have an interview where you see on the telly, you're facing the camera, you're talking to the camera. There's lots
Yeah.
of us. You have lots of them throughout the day. Yeah, so you have like two, one, two, three. It varies, I suppose, but every single person in the castle will have at least one interview that day.
Yeah, that's great. I presume that must be the case. Otherwise, you're being focused in on. And were you there when Claudia allegedly used gravy granules for her tanning instead of tanning stuff? And did she smell a gravy?
I didn't get that close. I never really sniffed her, to be honest. That'd be weird if I was sniffing Claudia. But no, we talk to each other quite a lot, and she's an amazing person. And she's like having another player, to be honest. She genuinely cares about the guys in the castle, and she really gets involved. And she really she really gets enthusiastic and shouts. And yeah, she's great. Yeah, she's a lovely woman, lovely down to earth person, to be honest. A normal, lovely, loves her husband, her children. She's a normal person.
Well, I have a friend who actually introduced her to her husband.
Right.
And he says, or he has said, that she is possibly the most intelligent person he's ever met and
Really?
possibly one of the funniest people he's ever met as well.
Oh, she's funny. Like, she comes across what you see on the telly is what you get in real life. Like when you see it on Graham Norton, when you see it on places. She says it. She's lovely. She's a nice, just
She's
a nice
crackers,
person.
though.
Yeah, she is. But yeah, I never had a conversation, an intelligent conversation with her. But so I don't know how intelligent she is. But she's a nice person. Which to me, to be honest, being a nice person is more valuable than anything in life. No matter how much money you got, so she's a lovely person. Yeah, she's nice.
I agree. So,
Yeah.
last thing then, I don't think I've breached your NDA there, have I? You're not going to get
No,
stunk.
I didn't say anything.
And then the last thing, tell me about what you're doing now. Tell me about your business now and how people can get in touch with you, how people can use your services.
So the only reason I went on that TV show was to get a platform and a profile I got now, because I don't want people to struggle or suffer like I did for 24 years. Because I think I'm relatable to millions of people in this country. My upbringing was fine. I'm just a bloke who didn't show any feelings and emotions. Yeah, I showed feelings, but I didn't talk about feelings and emotions. Yes, I'm relatable to lots of people, I think, in this country. And if I can change, and if I can change and now talk, I'm still a strong person. I can still lift lots in the gym or look after people in security, but I can still talk about my feelings and emotions. So I say to people, young boys, I like talking to young boys, because young white men at the moment are very confused. And I really feel for young white men because they don't know what to be. They say, I want to be strong. I want to do, but I get called toxic man. I say to them, look, there's nothing wrong with being strong as long as you're emotionally intelligent as well and you're in touch with your feelings and emotions and you're respectful to women, you appreciate women and we're all equal and that sort of thing. I said, if you're a single young white boy who's strong and in touch with his feelings and emotions, you are gold dust. I said, girls will love you, I said, because there's not many men out there who are really strong, want to protect their family, and also are emotionally intelligent as well. So I said to
Yeah.
boys, if you are both of them, you're a diamond in the rough. You're amazing. I said, women will love you if you're in touch with your feelings and emotions and their feelings and emotions, and also you're strong. That's a brilliant. That's a winner. So yeah, I struggle. So what I do now, I talk. I do a lot of educational talks. I call them, or I'm an educator. I don't like to call myself a keynote speaker or motivator because I want people to take things away they can implement in their lives with their friends and their family. If you watch one of my talks and think, "Oh, that's great," but that's not relatable, I failed. I've not only failed myself, I failed the audience as well. So I want people to
Mm,
take things away, they can think a little nugget. Oh yeah, I can use that. I can use that. I can use that. So
mm.
I do a lot of keynote speaking, yeah, inspirational talks, educational talks. I do a lot of podcasting, a lot of workshops as well. Yeah, so it's really busy at the moment. It's really good. It's going the right direction.
And who do you do that for?
Anyone wants to listen to my dulcet Welsh voice. I like working in. I go to like large organisations, universities, schools. Anyone really, because every single person needs to talk about well-being and mental health. So it doesn't discriminate against anyone. Mental health and well-being. So every single person in the world has got mental health. It's funny. People don't even know what mental health actually means. People say, "I haven't got mental health." I say, "No, you've got mental health. You haven't got a mental illness. There's a
Yeah.
separate thing between mental health and mental illness. So first of all, if we're going to break the stigmas, people need to understand what it is. So people automatically say that when you say the word mental health, people think you're sitting in a corner, rocking back and forth, crying, muttering to yourself. I said, no, it's not like that. I said, it's the people with the biggest smiles on their faces and some who are struggling the most sometimes. Don't it doesn't it's not, anybody can have, everybody's got mental health, just on a different sliding scale. That's all. Some people are better looking after it than others. That's all it is. And that
Mm,
changes throughout your lifetime, throughout stresses, divorce, separation, death. It goes up and down. So yeah, so I just, I want to educate people really and try and break all these stigmas that are out there.
yeah. I agree with you. I think I was talking, I've written a book and hopefully
Yeah,
I'm sort of working to get it published, but
yeah,
I was telling one of my friends what the person I wrote the book for really is my mates' dads. That when I look at my mates' dads who work in factories or just normal working class blokes, um, and funnily enough, when I told one of my mates' dads, he just went, "Oh, everyone's got bloody mental health nowadays."
yeah,
And but
yeah,
even that phrase, well, yes, everyone does actually have mental
yeah,
health. It's just that some people have bad mental health, some people
yeah.
have better mental health.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, that's right. Yeah, no, that's right. Yeah, it's funny. You come up against that. Even this day and age, people still say them comments now. I said, mental illness is a serious condition and might need medication or professional help. I said, yeah, that not everybody's got mental illness, but most people will get it at some point in their life. I said,
yeah.
depression or anxiety. Anxiety is quite common. That's a mental illness, I suppose. But yeah, you got the serious things like bipolar or schizophrenia, that they're serious conditions. But yeah, everybody's got mental health. And it's funny. The thing you just said then, I've had that a few times.
Well, I think what you're doing is great. I
Thank
think
you.
we need more of it.
Thank you.
I'm really glad we've got in touch. I hope we keep in touch because
Yeah, definitely.
um, I think we could have some silly events together at some point. But yeah, no, thanks for taking time out on your Sunday to
No, no
chat with
worries.
me.
No,
Um,
thank you.
I've really enjoyed having a chat with you. And if you ever need anything, give me a shout.
I will do. Cheers. Thanks, Mark.
All right, matey.
Cheers. Thank you.
All right,
No
thanks,
worries
mate.
at all. Thanks, buddy.
Catch
Cheers.
you
Take
later.
care. Ta-ra, mate.
Ta-ra.
Bye.
Bye bye
Bye.
bye. So everybody, that was Andrew Jenkins. What a top guy. He showed what a likable man he is, and I love what he's trying to do for people and trying to help people. If you've enjoyed it, please click like, please subscribe. And also if you're listening to the podcast, if you want to make it a regular podcast, I don't know how you do that. So, from your podcast provider, just click yes, please again, whatever the button is that does that. But yeah, no, thanks ever so much for listening, everybody, and thanks ever much for taking the time to watch and listen. And let's hope we can do this together and change things moving forward. All right, thanks very much.